So one of the things that really helped us was listening to the needs of our clients and the needs of our customers and how their pain points changed and really what they were looking for.
Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the seven figure journey. My name is David Gilliland. I'm one of your hosts. Today we have Michael Dusing with us out of Colorado with Design Like You Mean It. Michael, welcome to the show.
Howdy, everybody. How you doing?
We love talking with entrepreneurs and people who build new things and create value out there. What got you to decide to jump in and do this product design work for people in the software space?
Yeah, so I had kind of been off and on freelancing for many years, for about 9 years. Kept getting pulled into companies that I would do a little work with, and then they're like, "Hey, we need to build a product team. Can you come in and do that? Get people off the ground, kind of helping other people get from zero to MVP or kind of scale their teams." And then really saw that for various reasons that either succeeded or didn't succeed with different companies, and decided to kind of give it a go ourselves. I actually had a previous coworker that I'd known for 10 years, and we were both kind of doing similar things, running solo businesses where we were the service provider as well as the business owner, and saw limitations to how far we could push that and the types of projects we could take, and wanted to kind of level up. So we joined up together and started Design Like You Mean It little over 3 years ago.
Oh, fantastic. That's a short amount of time. You guys blew past your $1 million mark, doubled since then too. You've done some great things, and as you've grown, you probably learned a few things. What's helped you in that growth to really get to where you're at today?
Yeah, part of it was figuring out kind of our product market fit, and really how to talk about ourselves in the market. And one of the interesting things about the last couple of years is that changed. So when we started the business, we were very UX design focused, and really just a lot of executional design and those sorts of things. And that's where the market was, really in UX. And it was booming, highly profitable. Things were great. We were bringing in contract support initially, and then landed some larger anchor clients, and hired some full-time folks, have some employees. And then at the beginning of 2023, the market kind of shifted. People were looking at, were we in a recession? What do we do? Kind of strapping down. There were a lot of layoffs in tech. And we repositioned ourselves because we found that the market for just straight UX design or design augmentation um, pretty much disappeared. People were either hiring offshore, or they were downsizing their team and putting more on their internal team. Um, so it was really interesting. We have repositioned ourselves more around the product strategy end of things. Now, often we end up doing the design and the development and building the products themselves. So we're full service end to end if we need to be, but usually our entry point is product validation or rapid prototyping, or creating the product initially. So one of the things that really helped us was listening to the needs of our clients, and the needs of our customers and how their pain points changed, and really what they were looking for. So that helped us continue to grow, and continue to drive revenue. The other thing that's really helped us over the last year, in the third year of our growth, is after having a couple full-time employees, starting to put some systems in place. Um, Going from 5 to 10 clients active at a time to 20, 25 clients was a real pain point for us. And we figured out how to create some systems and streamline some things for onboarding new clients, client presentations, client kickoffs, communication channels, all sorts of things like that.
I love that. So Just to reiterate, one, product market fit isn't a one-time game.
No, it's a
So
constant
you
game.
you have to nail it,
Yep.
and then again and again. The pivoting can be so critical, or we can stagnate just because we're not going after what really matters to our customers, where
Yep.
they need to be. So I love that. And then the second piece is, so you've gotten in this rhythm. Now as you start adding more and more clients, now without the processes and systems supporting it, it gets really messy,
Yes.
right? But with the systems, all of a sudden it's like, oh, sales, keep going. Ops can manage it, right? Let's just keep going.
Yeah, so I'm the COO, and one of the things that when we're scaling and bringing in new projects, the bigger the project, the bigger the team. So we have a core group of people that we use, but oftentimes we need specific language need, or like HubSpot dev or Salesforce dev or something very specific. So one of the things we've done is put together a process for onboarding new contractors and getting everybody in access and in systems and things like that. And that's been huge because we can. I mean, one of our biggest benefits is the fact that we can talk to somebody, sign some contracts, and the next week we can start. We don't need a lot of lead time to do things. So I can onboard 3 or 4 new team members in a couple of days and be ready to go.
So you guys function a lot more in some ways, like a general contractor might
A
for
little bit,
for a
yeah.
build, right? Like
Yep.
we got the work, we know how to organize it, we've got the systems in place, then we pull in all of our people, get them going, get them moving quickly. And then the next job, it might be a new team depending on the needs where they're at.
Yeah, usually it's a different mix of things. We like to talk about it in the form of like a garden and like planting seeds and then helping them grow, because it's an ongoing thing, and that's one of the biggest hurdles with software is like explaining to people. There's ongoing maintenance, there's ongoing growth, your metrics change, your engagement changes. Um, One of the things that we've done kind of with repositioning ourselves around product strategy, we're using the catchphrase "stop, collaborate, and listen." And what we're doing there is really saying like, stop what you're doing and assess what you're trying to do and the business value and the business outcome that you're striving towards. Take a moment to listen to your team, listen to your clients and your customers, and understand their needs and how you can align business outcomes and customer needs and drive those things together. Um, and then collaborate. We really work with internal teams. Our goal is to empower and accelerate the internal team. Most of our clients are a CTO or a CPO who's working as a team of one or with a small team of 1 or 2 folks. There's always more than they can do. We're there to kind of accelerate the things that they know need to get done and help them create the efficiency to get to those business outcomes quicker.
Nice. Well, very cool. I love the clarity you have, and then that you've learned that one within your own team. I'm sure you stop, collaborate, and listen also, but you've used that with your
Yes.
customers as well. This is sort of a value of how you go about getting work done that's really helped you.
Yep. And that pivoting that you were talking about earlier is really something we're realizing, hey, the market's changing a little bit. Let's stop for a second and talk about what we're seeing from our clients and from our offering and how we better align the business to the current market.
Yeah, it's awesome. Um, it's actually difficult though, as an entrepreneur, when you have a
Very.
thousand demands to stop, right?
Yes, very. Because there's always more to do in any one direction,
Yeah.
and one of the hardest things is to admit, like, hey, this is a direction we are heading in that isn't working. We need to stop doing that and pivot into another direction. And
Yeah.
it's very hard to admit that. I mean, I think probably our biggest benefit is the fact that I have a co-founder, and we're very open and transparent with each other. Of like, hey, man, I see this direction that we're going not working out. Like, what do you think? And we pass the torch in different ways. We push different things forward, and that helps too. So there's always an outside perspective there of like, hey, this is really working for us. We should do more of this. Or hey, this isn't working. What do we do? What can we do differently?
Oh, what a fantastic thing to have from a customer perspective, because at the size, oh, sorry, at the stage of the product life cycle that you enter in, which is pre anything, right? We have an
Yep.
idea and now we're generating and building it. Normally at that phase, you still have 4 or 5 pivots to make
Yep.
before you're really going to hit on. And the worst thing is to have a partner that's gunning and going and saying, well, I mean, this could be a loss. We could finish this off. You could still use it. Instead of saying, no, remember at this stage in our business, pivoting quickly is the key to success. It's going to take several rounds of bad ideas before we really hit on the best. And sometimes that doesn't come until you're in development, like what you guys do. So,
Yeah, and we figure it out. I mean, we also have like, clients on the other end of the spectrum that are like giant healthcare companies that
yeah.
we're helping, push forward and create efficiencies. I mean, we did some work with Victoria's Secret where we did a bunch of research and then some mobile optimization. We were able to significantly increase their conversion rate on mobile. Like there's the full other end of the spectrum of like you have a business that's fully running and humming, and how do you create better UX and really turn the screws on like taking this to the next level. We do a lot of that through product validation testing and user research and alignment to, as you're saying, as your business progresses, as the market changes, everybody needs to adjust. So we do that for e-commerce companies, but we also work with a lot of large healthcare companies. I mean, even just simple things with healthcare where finding a new provider, booking your initial appointment, things like that, or can be really hard and really complex. The bigger the system, the more complex the problems, and we love that sort of stuff. We worked with one provider on that whole flow of things, and we're able to increase the success rate of somebody finding a doctor and booking their first appointment from like 21% all the way up to 86%.
Yeah.
Um, so it's amazing the gains you can have when you take a minute to pause and be like, are we getting people into the system appropriately?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And, I've seen people, you've got the benefit of just having someone internal that helps you think. And maybe you've built it into your process now that there's certain milestones you guys say, no, we always do a stop. Or
Yeah,
maybe it's just data driven.
we spend time twice a week. One of those meetings is about what's currently happening and kind of like on the ground what needs to be adjusted in the next couple of days, pulling people in, that sort of stuff. And then another one of those meetings is looking farther ahead. So we do that every single week, and that helps a lot in always kind of looking at the bigger picture and keeping calibrated to what does this mean beyond this week or next week's execution.
I think that's fantastic. That's a healthy meeting rhythm. And the faster you want to grow, the more often you have to have those kinds of meetings that you're saying, let's stop, let's think about the future and how this plays out. Instead of just execute, 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 right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
great insights. Michael, the fun thing is as entrepreneurs, when we overcome hurdles and when we make our, you've grown well in 3 years, you've already passed up into your 2 million plus mark. I mean, you guys you're adding great services and being rewarded accordingly. But that means you've got new challenges, right? That's,
Yep.
that's what that means. What are your challenges today that maybe we can bring a little value? And you could kind of sit in the seat metaphorically for all the listeners today.
Yeah. I mean, every day is a new day. That's one of the great parts about founding a business and owning your own business and growing it. The market changes, your people change, your customers change, things like that. One of the things that we've struggled with or really have been working on is figuring out when's the time to level up. Specifically in services, we have multiple offerings, and there's just when's the time to give up on the clients that the type of clients that you took when you first started,
Yeah.
and kind of say, hey, I mean, we work with partners, for example, who have like, we don't move for 40 or 50K. Like, you have to meet 40 or 50K, or we're not going to take any sort of project. We're starting to establish those minimums, and realize like, hey, these we had 10 clients in the first year and a half that all fit this profile. Maybe we don't serve that profile anymore. Maybe we're more mature as a business. So I think that, kind of assessing when to grow up,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, is like, what types of things should we be looking at? When do we kind of pull that trigger to pull to the next level?
I mean, it's a great question. How much does it matter to you to solve that problem? Like, what do you think that's actually worth value wise? How's it holding you back today?
I would say the struggle that we're having is, so one of the things we've done, in the last year is really pull, ourselves, in the last year and a half, 2 years, pull ourselves out of the IC work and really doing a lot of the work and being in every single meeting, with every single client, and more. We have the right people in place now, so we can pull back more. Um, so I think one of the places we've struggled is with clients that need more interaction and oversight, or have an expectation that, um, the founders will be involved at every step of the stage for a lower budget or smaller scope project. Um, so it's about meeting those expectations that when there were just two of us, it was easy to meet because, of course, they're seeing both of us all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and easier to control. So the smaller the project, the smaller the budget, generally the more needy the client is, as far as interactions. And we find that when we get into bigger systems and bigger clients, it's more like, you're an expert at your thing, go do it. And we're going to have stage gates and milestones and things like that. But it's a lot less, hand holding and
Yeah.
coaching.
I I think it's and so what I'm hearing you say is we actually don't make good money on certain clients
That is
because
true.
of the amount of time and energy we have to pour into it. And
Well,
it
and we work best when we have, at least two people, if not three people, on a project. And
uh,
so that is different from where we started, when maybe one or two people were on the majority of projects. And now
yeah.
we have projects where we have 9 or 10 people on them.
And that makes sense because one of your superpowers is the ability to collaborate well. And so one plus one is like three, four, five instead of just two. And other companies collaborate poorly, and two plus two is one.
Yes. Well, and
Adding
it's
more
about
people is bad.
teaching those people that part of collaboration is letting go of micromanagement and
Yeah.
minute control,
Yeah.
of saying, here's the goal we're trying to get to. You do whatever you need to get to there.
So so the without moving and getting clear of, hey, we have to get tighter around our market. So we talked about this product
Yes,
market fit. We're talking about pivoting tighter and saying this is our group and this is the type of work where we do our best, they love us the most, and we make the most money. So
exactly.
we're trying to find that trifecta,
Yep,
right? So it's really energy generating, positive, and all over the place there. And
exactly.
um, and let's use some of your own abilities to do this and do this well. So, do you have a stop rhythm for the strategic direction of your company? So you're doing a weekly looking ahead, but this kind of issue isn't a 2 hour meeting.
Yep.
This is
Yeah.
a bigger one, right? Do you have something in place right now that you use?
We generally have a bigger conversation at least quarterly, if not, biannually.
Okay.
One of the things we've done, over the last couple of years, is every 6 months spend an entire day, talking about this sort of stuff.
That's
Um,
that's fantastic. And I would strongly suggest building in the quarterly. level.
Yep.
And on an annual, make it 2 days. And the reason is on that annual, I want to be able to look 3 years down the road, 2 years down the road, instead of a quarter or 1 year, right? So in the quarter, we could kind of look for the next quarter plus. But in that annual, I want to think for the next 2 years, 3 years, I want to be thinking a little bit bigger and broader. And it gives us the time. So it's that stop and to reevaluate.
Gotcha.
Now, not saying you should go this way, but almost all professional services, as they grow, tend to leave the small behind and go after bigger and bigger, right?
Yep.
There is another model,
Yep.
if and that should be considered as a group, which is, hey, everybody's leaving these people. Could we instead build a system and a process that doesn't
Yep.
require a lot of people, but serves these individuals super well at the price they can do? And now we have massive amount of market that nobody's fighting for, except
Yep.
the new entrants who don't do a great job. So there's another play, right? So we decide. But trying to do both, you're right. Our systems break. Your expenses just go up because you find new ways of collaborating with each other to make things better, which means more people are spending more time on things that are paying the same small amount because that's
Yep.
the way you lead and that's what you think. So that would be the first step is take the time like you're doing. And then the second piece is to go through an exercise to reevaluate your strategy. And so here's a few questions that may be helpful to you. And I got these from a good friend of mine named Eric Dena. Shared the following. The first piece is just ask the question, whom do we serve? It's just a really simple question. And if your team starts to get really tight around whom you serve, and we see 6 or 7 answers, that's an issue,
Yep.
right? And even if we're starting to just see two, uh, our processes, our people, the tech we use to support is different for one type of client than another. So, in essence, you, the COO, have to build two different businesses to serve two different customers. And so, answering the question, who do we serve? Some ways you might go about doing this is to list out that little trifecta. I like to just say, all right, one way is let's put our customer list right here. And let's do our revenue profit margin right here. How much profits do we make here for each customer? In the professional services, you can do that. You know exactly how much you've made. So let's put it in there. Let's put in a little metric of how much do we like to work with them. So have your team rate them. On a 1 to 5, 5, I love them. I could do projects for them all day. 1, really, I might quit my job if you ask me to work with them again. And then just
Yep.
list that out, right? Um, and and basically, what we see just with some of those little pieces is if the customer is doing a lot of work with you and your team likes them and you're profitable, that tends to mean that the customer likes you, the business likes them, and the team, their talents are aligned with what the customer is hoping for. And your systems are more aligned with it. Where the team doesn't like working with someone isn't always because they're a jerk, sometimes just because their expectations are different than what you deliver on. And so there's always friction. Or your process is difficult for them to work with. And so there's additional friction, complaint. People, your team doesn't want to feel like they're failing. And that normally shows up in that how much they love working with somebody category. So just put those out there and then sort it. Let's start seeing who's bubbling up to the top and what's similar across those. They may be size of company. So now you have some other metrics. You've hidden all those metrics when you're doing that first measurement. Now those get shown like, oh, this is how big they are. Here's the size projects they tend to bring to us. And you can start seeing some similarities and watching. And doing that exercise, you'll probably see instead of 4 or 5 options, you'll probably see 2 options. And then you get to choose because choosing still matters at this point. As you get tighter, you tend to
Yep.
grow faster.
Yeah, and I mean, part of it too is it's not ever going to be the mentality of the bigger the client, the bigger the margin. Um, it's usually just the more work involved, and sometimes that means less margin than more.
Yeah. Figuring that out is what your data analysis gets to do. And you guys
Yep.
get to talk through that. But take the time to do it. And I would do the data analysis before you get to the meeting.
Yep.
Have people answer these questions. Now let's bring the data and let's have a real conversation. Here's what I've watched. I mean, I've seen hundreds of businesses go through this. So when they finally narrow down in, a couple things happen. One, they may have some team members who don't fit in the narrowed new space. For instance, you may
Yep.
have salespeople who are really upset because they were good at selling the small mom and pop things that weren't making you any money, but it was their easy sales. And they may get really upset about having to move upstream because they don't have the abilities. Not all of them. Others are like, yes, finally, right? Because I like the big deals. I do better at it, right? And my system's built to do that. So you may have some people who don't love the new direction, and you may want to think about how to help them succeed or there with you or elsewhere. So you may, that's one thing. But the biggest thing is now your marketing gets to focus, right? Your marketing dollars can really focus in on who you're supposed to be focusing on. Your ops get to really focus and get tight. You start to create larger margins with those target customers because everything is flowing, and you tend to see your revenues go up. Your margins almost always go up. But I also see sales start to take off because people know, oh, this is what Michael's team does.
Yep.
Yeah, they specialize on us. So it's a
Yeah.
powerful thing. And just was talking with one client, and they went from 6 to 20 million when they started to focus and get tight, right? So it made a difference. Um,
Yeah, and part of it was, in the first year and a half, 2 years, we weren't sure
no, you're not.
where that
You're
where
still
that was,
figuring
and
it
even
out.
now, I mean, we're still young. Even now, we're figuring that out. I read a thing the other day that was really interesting about when you have a client who fits these three things. Um, One of the best sales techniques and things you can do is ask them, "Who do you know who could use our services or would need what we provide?" And part of it is asking it as an open ended question that's not yes no, which forces them to think about, like, because when you say, "Do you know anybody who needs our services?" It's real easy to say no and not actually think about it. But when you say who, they start thinking about, like,
Names.
who they had lunch with or who they met for happy hour or things like that. And it's a very easy add on that can result in 20-30% more business.
That's right. And the reason you can do that now is it is so unfair to say to somebody, "Hey, we could use some more customers, and
Yep.
we do design build of software. Who do you know could use us?" Like, oh my goodness, that's everywhere. That's
Yep.
everywhere. But let's pretend that when you did your little matrix, it wasn't just a size of customer. It started to play out that, hey, we really serve customers especially well who serve this market with their product or services. Like, we really know the voice of 16 to 22-year-old young men, kind of thing. Like,
Yep.
we just
Yep.
know it. We're so stinking good at it. And anyone who's serving that market, let us design your stuff. And you start seeing, whoa, our team does super well at that. We're really
Yep.
aligned. That's extremely powerful. Now you tell someone, anyone who serves that market, I would love to get to know them because we do too, in a way that blows their mind. And like,
Yep.
oh, I do know some people who make products or services for that market. That's
Perfect.
that kind of idea. Give specificity, and the names pop up faster in their minds.
Yeah, and that's part of it too. And what we've been trying in marketing is kind of trying those different stories, because we do have two or three of those stories right now,
Yeah,
and trying to figure out, like,
and
which one of
and
those
it's
is the best fit.
probably. Oh, I'm going to wait a second. It's probably great to just at this stage. I mean, you're only at 2 million. You can play three. It's just those
Yep,
distracting 12 out here. Move those aside. Let's
exactly.
let's play the three. and let's see who wins there. That's fantastic. I'm not saying narrow down to one right now. You don't need to. But getting tighter, you'll start to see some things take off. You'll see some people gravitate to it. It's a powerful way to move. Okay, great. Hopefully that's enough to get started now. But when you think who, that's the first question. That strategic thing. There's four more questions you should be looking at. But
Yeah,
who
yeah.
do you serve? What do they need to accomplish? That's question one. What matters to them? And getting really clear about that will be there. Then you'll get into other things like how do you help them accomplish that? How do you organize around that? How do you know that you're delivering value to them? Right? What are those metrics? And seeing really clearly, oh, this is how all of our system and business is aligned to deliver on that strategic intent. Uh, but that takes time. That's why I said give the 2 days. Let's get the two
Yeah.
days because we're going to have certain strengths that we've already got that we should leverage towards serving that client better. And then there's other ones that we're like, if we're really going to win there, we need to build this capability that we don't have today. So maybe this year we have to hire a key person to bring in on that, or maybe we need to build a new process. Maybe we need to up our skills in this area with our current team. Whatever it is, we see more clearly what they need, what we have to do to achieve that in order to win in the space compared to the competitors. Then we know what we have to build in our business to get out there and do that instead of just serving the next person who says yes. Right.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Great.
And that's
Hopefully
how we
that
get into trouble, is serving the next person that says yes.
that's right. And we've
Yep.
all gotten in trouble that way. And the problem is that was the right thing to do before you hit the million and 2 million. That was the right thing to do. You had to test everything out there. We were checking it all out. We were shooting 1,000 rounds, seeing what hit, and then now we're getting to a point that we can start really building systems and processes to go and win.
Yep.
So great question. Was there anything more you wanted out of that? Maybe I didn't get specific enough. There's more to give. I just don't know where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like we said, it's figuring out what is that fit to that trifecta and where we make the best margins, because you can make profit, but it can be, you know, not enough profit to really justify that
That's
market,
right. That's right.
and that vertical. And I mean, that's probably one of the things we've struggled with most, is there is profit to be had in those avenues. It's a question of, like you're saying, do we want to serve that market and focus at that level? We don't necessarily have to go after whale sized clients, because I mean, that's also a different problem space
That's right.
of, we've seen a lot of our competitors who had one or two very large clients that then cut
Yeah,
entire services
that is
businesses.
too high of a risk. You've
Yep.
got to have that spread. You don't want a single customer that's representing more than 20% of your business. I like
Okay.
to say, let's like get that much lower, much lower, much lower. Not by
Yeah, well, and the
reducing
hard
their
part,
work with them, just by doing more work with more companies that size.
yes, exactly. And we've seen some of our competitors who had, two or three people that were either at 20% or more than
Mhm.
20% of their business. And when the market changes or the industry changes, often it affects the same sized client.
Yeah.
Um, so in their case, we saw a couple of people who lost two clients who both represented 25% of their business, and all of a sudden 50% of their business is gone.
Yep. 50%
Um,
of the business, but all their costs were still in place. And so
yes.
that's a
Yeah,
painful
so
place to
we've
be.
tried intentionally to really diversify, because in the first year and a half, we had one client who was about 56% of our business,
Hmm.
and they went away, and then we really distributed across. But the hard part is we don't want a bunch of clients that are 5% of our business. Like
Well,
that can also be a problem as well, because then we're constantly selling, and um, we're constantly selling, but it's every month is a struggle because the projects are so small.
well, I'm okay if you have a bunch of them that are 5% of your business. I don't have a problem with that at all. Just make each one of those large.
Yes, yeah,
because,
that
right,
it's
let's do
5%
5
of a
million,
bigger
right?
number and
Let's
not
of a
5%
bigger
of a
number.
small.
That's right. Like
Yes,
I
yeah,
say, what you had
that's
a
true.
big behemoth 56% one. I want you to get 10 of those, and all of a sudden that person is only They're a small portion again.
I
They're
mean,
5%.
on that avenue of evaluating current clients and things like that, should we be looking at clients that are less than 5%, that are 2%, and whether or not those are,
Normally, when I make that list, you're going to find 20% of your clients that are actively losing you money.
yep,
And you should go and have a conversation with them the following week that says, look, we've appreciated working with you. We value you and what you're trying to do. Our business is not built, I guess, to care for you in the way it needs to. We can continue to. So we lose money working with you today. We make money with others. If
yep,
you love our work enough, here's your new price. If
yep,
you can get if just 20% of them say yes and they take the new price, and all the others say no and they leave you, you won twice. If
yep.
nobody accepts and they all leave you, you still won. so,
That's
so,
true.
so just look at that. Go make that move. That bottom chunk is weighing down the rest of them. Go have the conversation. Their business owners do it. Say, this is where this is at. This is where we have to go. If you're interested, here's your new price. Um,
Well, and those are the customers that you rate high as far as like wanting to work with. What's your advice around the customers that aren't being rated high as people you want to work with or your team is excited to work with?
Great question. Have the conversation because they may not be excited to work with them because we haven't actually collaborated as well as we needed to.
Yep,
So, part of a collaboration is that we all make the money we need to. That's still part of it. Another piece of it may be that because we weren't, we treated them like a redheaded stepchild and they felt as such. And
yep,
it's kind of been a rub. So, one of my clients, they had, we went through this process, and this was 3 years ago when they did this. They laid it out, and the name this particular group they worked with, they're like, we hate working with them. We hate working with them. We have history of hating them. I was like, okay, great. Um, what's the opportunity like? Well, the opportunity is really big. Tell me what your target market is. Well, they're actually dead center in the target market, but we just hate working with them. Like, all right, do you want to cut them or do you want to look at it? And they had their turmoil. And we said, all right, let's give it just 3-4 months. Let's just have a conversation with them and
yep,
set up a different relationship. So they looked at it. They figured a new way of working that they did with some other clients too, to say one of the problems was they were always giving new teams to work with this client. And the client always felt like, I want someone I can rely on. I want it like
yep,
my point of contact. So they set that up with them. Fast forward 3 years later, they're at the top of the list for revenue size, and their profits are at a reasonable size. They're not the highest profit margin, but they're in a good enough spot. They're the highest there, and they're rated not 5 of 5, but 4 of 5 on customers they love working with, because they found a new way of working with them. So collaborate and see if they want to listen. There were others on the list that are just gone. Okay, the conversation didn't go right. There wasn't interest in really investing in being a partner in this. But that group, that first example, they actually did want to be in this a little bit better. They wanted a tighter partnership, and so they found a way to do it. You determine, I can't say there's a right or wrong answer, but your ability to collaborate is your superpower in determining some of those with the type of relationships you have. So
gotcha.
think about it and see if there's reciprocity there, if they just want to use you straight up.
Yeah,
If they're poorly and they just want to use you, get rid of them. But
yep,
I like to get rid of them with a higher price. Personally, it's my favorite, but sometimes you just get rid of them.
that's true. Yeah, um, yeah. Sometimes and that's part of it too, is just understanding if we've outgrown certain clients and certain profiles,
Yeah.
and what those are, and we don't know. To your point about having the conversation, we don't know on their end. We might be losing money, but they really value our insight, and we're really integral to their business growth. So they might be
Hmm.
willing to pay that
To pay the
upcharge.
level.
Yep.
If they knew that working with them was going to put you out of business, that puts their business at risk.
Yep.
So have the conversation. Tell them where the price is. You can do the math. You know where the price has to be. Just let them know
Yep.
it has to be here. Yeah. Now let's talk. What does it need to look like? Okay. Uh,
Okay.
that's gonna wrap up our time here, Michael. If someone wants to really work through their product strategy and how they should think about this, move things to the next level, or better UX for what they currently have, how do they get in touch with you?
I mean, the easiest way is to go to our website, designlikeyoumeanit.com, or people can email me directly. My email is michael at dlymi.com. Um, so I'd be happy to talk to anybody about their product strategy and how we might be able to collaborate together.
Fantastic. That wraps up this episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. Thank you again, Michael, for what you shared and sitting on the hot seat for all of us to kind of work through real issues that we need to stop, reconsider what we're doing, make a plan and move forward, pivot often. Great value today. For all of you listening, if you found value, please like, share, do what's necessary to help other seven figure business owners access and learn from and with us. Keep growing, keep striving, keep caring. Until next time.